Today on TimesCast, tens of thousands of Somalis have died in the country's worst drought in 60 years as aid groups are unable to deliver supplies amid new violence. The House is expected to vote on Speaker John Boehner's debt limit proposal Thursday night.
Let's pass this bill and end this crisis.
It will be defeated. They know that. The American people now should understand that clearly.
And Nafissatou Diallo, the hotel maid accusing Dominique Strauss-Kahn of sexual assault, speaks out again at a Brooklyn press conference.
This is Jeffrey Gettleman reporting from Mogadishu, Somalia. I've been in Mogadishu for the past several days covering this famine, and it has been really upsetting. We have seen babies die right in front of us, malnourished children who have arrived in drought-stricken areas, come into Mogadishu with their families looking for help, and the help has come too late. We were in the hospital yesterday and saw a father frantically waiting for a nurse to come and help him. He disconnected an IV from his 3-year-old daughter. She died right there in front of us. He wrapped her in a shawl and picked her up and then marched out of the hospital to go bury her. The aid effort is beginning to pick up. There have been the first UN airlift into Mogadishu bringing food over the past several days, but there's still a lot of violence. Today was one of the heaviest days of fighting in several weeks, and we could hear gunshots all day, and there were black clouds of smoke wafting over sections of the city. The result of all this is just a pretty depressing, upsetting picture because there aren't the resources here to help them.
As Speaker John Boehner rounds up support for a pivotal vote on Thursday night, the question remains, what's next?
This is Michael Shear with the New York Times reporting from Capitol Hill, where we're waiting anxiously for a big vote today. House Speaker John Boehner will be bringing his legislation to end the debt crisis to a vote Thursday evening. He had a press conference earlier here on Capitol Hill, said that it's now up to the Senate.
When the House takes action today, the United States Senate will have no more excuses for inaction.
Interestingly enough, however, Senator Harry Reid, the Democratic Majority Leader in the U.S. Senate, even before the House vote, took to the floor of the Senate today and promised that his Senate would, in fact, take up the House bill as soon as it's passed, assuming that it's passed is out of the House, and immediately kill it.
It will be defeated. They know that. The American people now should understand that clearly.
The hope there is on the part of the Democrats in the Senate that simply by promising to kill it, it makes it a little tougher for the House Speaker to actually round up the votes to pass it. So what to look for this weekend is really going to be a question of how well the Senate Democrats and the Senate Republicans can work together, whether or not the pressure is increased enough on the Senate Republicans the closer we get to the deadline of Tuesday when the nation could default on its debt, how much pressure there is on the Republicans and whether they end up coming to the table and cutting some sort of deal with the Democrats that can end the crisis.
And Dominique Strauss-Kahn's accuser appears at a press conference to make her case.
Today at one of New York's largest Christian churches, the accuser in the Dominique Strauss-Kahn case came forward to express gratitude to people who had backed her throughout the last 2 months and also to express her intent to keep plowing ahead with this case.
I heard a lot of things, bad things, people calling me. That's why I have to be here and let people know a lot of things that they say about me is not true.
An entire forest of microphones and cameras sprung up here at the Cultural Center. Reporters from around the world who had never seen Ms. Diallo in person before came to the press conference to hear her speak.
Mic check.
Until now, Ms. Diallo has been a very carefully guarded figure in this entire event. Now, with the case seeming to approach a climactic moment, will it go forward or not? Her lawyers are taking a very aggressive approach about bringing her out front. She was clearly not a person accustomed to standing in front of a bunch of cameras, was nervous, and was quickly led away. Her lawyers wanted to counter the image that has developed of her, that they fear has developed of her as someone who is a con artist out to make a buck.
She's a hardworking, single parent, struggling to raise her 15-year-old daughter in the Bronx, like thousands of other women in the city.
What happened to me, I don't want that to happen to any other woman, because This is just too much for me. It's too much for me and my daughter.
Mr. Strauss-Kahn is not due back in court for at least another 3 weeks. By then, it's widely expected that the prosecutors will have decided whether they're going to go ahead with the case or whether they're going to dismiss the charges.